Croeso pawb, welcome everyone. Today I'm going to be talking to you about dehydrators. I get so many questions saying what dehydrator to use. Do I recommend a dehydrator? So I'm going to show you the dehydrator that I use and give you some hints and tips on how you can dehydrate your own herbs at home. So I've just dug the booklet out because I couldn't quite remember the name and I always have to look it up. This is an Excalibur and it's an Excalibur ECB 52B. Why did I choose this one? Well, the main reason is it's stackable. You can stack the trays on top of each other, and that's really important because if you have drawers, the one that pull out, as you're sliding them out, the herbs get crushed and a lot of them fall behind the back. And the good news is the stackable dehydrators are usually a bit cheaper. So why do you want to dehydrate? Well, the reason I dehydrate, because dried herbs that you buy in, usually they've lost their colour, they're not smelling as strong, they're not tasting as strong. And I've done experiments. The one time I dried some of my own chamomile, I kept it for 2 years, and I bought some chamomile in, and it looked older than my 2-year-old chamomile, freshly bought in dried herbs. So even when I'm buying from reputable companies, the quality is knowing like it coming from my garden, straight into the dehydrator and being stored correctly. So another reason I use the dehydrator, I live here in Wales, which is highly humid, very wet country. So it's really efficient at drying herbs. Otherwise, if I try to air dry them, a lot of the time they go mouldy before they're even dry. So the two main reasons for me are because I live in a high humidity country and how well they preserve. They allow the herbs to have a good flavour. It preserves a lot of the volatile organic compounds and they have their colour. When I open my jars of dried herbs, I want them to smell, taste and look like the fresh herb. So the main thing is I am looking at getting the best medicine possible and reducing my air miles. Now my dehydrators here are run off solar power, so I don't have to worry so much about the price, but you'll be pleased to know that these dehydrators are quite low wattage, and because you're putting them on the lower setting, I tend to put it on about 35 degrees centigrade, which is 95 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to be using the lowest amount of electricity, which is great. Now, I always dry my herbs until they're crispy because I don't want them to go into my airtight jars and I don't want them to go in if they're not completely dry. So let me show you some of my herbs. So I've just grabbed the jar from the cupboard. They're stored in the dark so they don't get any sunlight on them, and that is mallow. Now I'm not sure whether you'll be able to see there in the camera, but the flowers look as purple as they do on the tree mallow plant and the leaves are as green. And if I do this by the microphone, can you hear that? Crispy dry and smells like the plant. So it's great. I can have my tree mallow all year round, so my season is extended. So it makes self-sufficient herbalism easier to do, and again it's all about reducing those medicine miles. Another herb here is mugwort. Now I've got some things in glass jars, which is obviously better, but sometimes when I'm doing large quantities I do have to use some of my food grade plastic tubs. Now the test is I can smell that plant. It's mugwort, and can you hear it? And you can even recognise the plant with that white underneath. So that's the rule. It should smell the same, it should look the same, and it should taste the same. So when I'm drying my herbs, I sometimes change the order round because obviously the tray at the bottom is closest to the low amount of heat that I'm using and the fans, so it just keeps the airflow going. So that can be a good way of making sure that they equally dry. With some dehydrators you might find you have to turn them that way as well to get going. Now the key thing is you have to harvest your plants when they aren't soaking wet And you have to be gentle when you're harvesting the plants, because if you aren't gentle, you're going to end up with black plants. If you aren't gentle with the heat, you're going to end up with brown plants. So the key thing is to be gentle at all steps of the way. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go down to the garden and I'm going to show you the process of filling my dehydrator up and bring you back up here and show you how I get it on and start making my own medicine. And the first tray I'm filling with oregano. I'm just cutting small sprigs as the leaves are really small, and I find it works really well in little sprigs. And at this time of year I'm hunting for them amongst the creeping buttercup, as I haven't quite done the final creeping buttercup weed of the year. So you can see this tray filling up really nicely, leaving lots of space for air to get around the dehydrator. Next up is lemon balm. So again, hunting around, but this is probably the last load I'm going to get this year, and next year I'm planning on planting a load of lemon balm here so the creeping buttercup can't get a look in. The smell is amazing. I wish I could actually have smell-o-vision here for you. Just picking this makes me feel calm and alive. Next up, skullcap. Quickly filling the tray here as there's lots of leaves to choose from. Just quickly cutting them from the stem and filling the tray, leaving a bit of an air gap. Now into the polytunnel and harvesting some tulsi. And this is absolutely divine. Easy to fill the tray, easy to harvest, and smells amazing. And into the last tray goes sweet basil. A tricky one that I'm still experimenting with drying, but another experiment is coming up and I will let you know when I get the best and ultimate way to dry. Click my mic on, there we go, you should be able to hear me now. Okay, so just come back up from the garden. I've got my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trays. I got my one tray of tulsi, try not to drop on top of each other, tray of oregano, tray of lemon balm, tray of skullcap, and tray of basil. Now, I'm putting the basil right at the top because this year I've been experimenting with how to dehydrate basil without it going brown like it's burnt, because even when I got it on the lower setting, it's still getting quite brown. So this batch, I'm trying to put it right at the top so it will get the cooler setting. And I'm going to put this on the lower setting on my dehydrator anyway, which is 35 degrees. And I'll get this going. And this will probably be the last dehydrator load I'll do this year, because we're on solar power here, and as we are getting towards the end of October, sunlight is getting shorter and we're not having as many nice days because it is Wales. So that's why I've got a different tray of each one, because I'm trying to do a bit extra of each one. In height of summer, and I'll do a video later on in the summer, you'll see I do whole dehydrator loads of just one herb. But this time I'm just trying to get a bit extra, squeeze out the one last load before the season turns. So that will be going on. And the idea is to dehydrate them until they're crispy. So I'll just switch it on in the wall. Switch it on here. And that's going. So I've got 2 of these dehydrators. And in the height of the summer, the 2 are going all day. As soon as it's dark, I turn it off and then I put it on the next morning. Now this time of year, as we get into autumn time towards winter, I can put one on in the day for a couple of hours, but obviously that doesn't matter so much because the plants are starting to die back as well. So there's some in the polytunnel that will keep going, but the temperature here this week, this coming week, is going to go down to the one night 3 degrees, feel like 0. So some things are going to start to die off. So I'm really pleased I've managed to get these in the dehydrator today. And hopefully it's inspired you to start looking at dehydrators and to see how you can preserve your harvest and have top quality dried herbs. If you've enjoyed this video, Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It really helps get the message out there and spread the message that we can grow, forage and create our own medicine. And if you want to connect more, head on over to my website selinawalker.earth and sign up to my free newsletter. Diolch am gwylio, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.